Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another review for The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 5. It is officially gone into uncharted territory, and it is brutal. I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the episode, and then I'm going to introduce all the different panelists and people that are here, and then we'll have our cameras on, and we're going to go and dive deep into all this craziness. So, the top of the hour, it was a really huge lull because it left off from where Ellie and Dina were. We were like, okay, they see the explosions, they're gonna maneuver forward, and they did. They started maneuvering forward, and they started noticing, crap, there's a lot of WLF. Like, we don't know what they're gonna do. Let's try to progressively sneak in, and they did everything they could to try to go and sneak in and get to where they need to go, and they realized very quickly that this was going to get really bad. And it got to the point that they had to try their best to try to escape, even though they were in a very precarious situation. All of a sudden, right before Ellie was about to take another L, because they got swarmed. They got swarmed at the very bottom as once they made it into the area. And thankfully, somebody saved them, and that was Jesse. Jesse came to the rescue, got them out, led them to where they need to go. They went into the woods because the soldiers were just not willing to go after them because it was something even scarier for them. And then that's when we find out that the scars were actually in those same set woods. So even though Jesse and Tommy were there to try to help bail them out, they all had to separate off. And so from that point, Ellie went a different route, and she heard, like, crap, like there's something going on over there. And then she recognized someone. And lo and behold, who she recognized, just as the game did, was Nora. Nora was going and doing her own thing. Ellie intercepted Nora, caught her completely off guard, coming out of the darkness like the freaking Dark Knight, and basically was like, you're going to tell me where Abby is. Nora, in very sharp fashion, gave a huge FU and basically identified that, yeah, that was wrong, but yeah, he's a terrible person. And then she proceeded to try to run away, and Ellie intercepted her, and you find out that unfortunately, unfortunate for Ellie, that Nora got exposed to the cordyceps. And so she's coughing, she can't move anymore. And as Ellie has her cornered, she picks up a pipe and she proceeds to beat, presumably, Nora to death. And then we get an immediate flashback to one of the most beautiful moments ever, which was Joel and Ellie reunited. And then the episode ends, which was a huge shocker for all of us. And it was emotionally compromising. But let's go ahead and get into the painted by numbers. I'm going to bring in our panelists here. First on deck, Ronan Unchained. What's up, dude?
Here surviving for Joel and Ellie. Yeah, this episode was awesome, but also brutal as especially with that ending. I think if and when folks you see our reaction, you're gonna see an Autumn like, oh come on, we gotta wait a week for this. So yeah, it was much like in Wizard of Oz, Ellie isn't in Kansas anymore, and now she's open now to the rest of the world and how different and brutal it can be.
No, for sure. And thank you for showing up. Just so you guys know, unfortunately, our leader here is a little sick, so I'm running point today. It was the cordyceps that got him. Mm-hmm. Next on deck, I'm going to bring in Jarrell. What the heck? I can't see Jarrell, but that's Jarrell. What's up, Jarrell?
Yo, what's going on? I am. Am I just saying hi, or am I giving like my short thoughts?
Yeah, you give your short thoughts.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's a good episode. Unfortunately, I'm starting to accumulate some noticeable flaws, but I'm just talking in general for the season. But I thought it was a good episode. I don't think that there's been a bad episode yet. I don't think so. But there was a lot of Dina and Ellie dynamics, which we'll talk about, which was fun. They are cute together, so it was fun. By the way, my audio cut out for a second. Was this the episode where Jeremy Wright was turning up on that dude, or was that in episode 4?
That was in 4.
It was in 4? Okay, gotcha. But still, I mean, like, I think spores were here, in a substantial way. Well, actually, yeah, because of Nora, shit. But yeah, the spores played a much bigger role, which was fun. I have a lot to say about the Nora moment, actually, and yeah, the cliffhanger. We'll get to it, but that kind of just took me out of the episode. I mean, as a compliment this time, though, to be clear.
Yeah, one thing that I did want to get right and roll right into is that the episode introduced a couple different characters, and I think they did it really well. And basically, it was a lady that she was kind of describing a person that was underneath her that went to B2 or an under level area to go and try to survey the area. And for some reason, people started getting sick. They weren't bitten. They just were just getting sick for no reason. And you find out within that conversation that was actually her son. And they set it up perfectly because us as gamers know that these are the spores that are associated with the cordyceps. And you don't just get, bit. Like you can, from just the air alone, you can honestly die. And so they introduced for the first time in this series what that actually looked like on a visual level at the end or towards the middle of the episode. And they introduced it perfectly in the very beginning with characters we didn't know. And it was an interesting, quick little flashback because this was somebody that Jeffrey Wright did intercept with before. And so now he knows that this is also something that's a reality. But I think they paid it off really well. So I think that's a good talking point of how did you guys think of how they handled spores and in this episode?
Much like this adaptation, I think this was the best case scenario. I think a lot of times for fans of the games, you have to like realize that spores were a mechanic. It was an obstacle. It was both a foundational thing within the ecosystem of the infected of the cordyceps fungus, but it was an obstacle. If you were playing Joel, you had to have a mask on. If you're Ellie, you're good because you're immune, but you wore it to you know keep the secrecy. What I love about the show is that they brought it as part of still the ecosystem of the cordyceps, but something new. And what was cool about that killer cold opening was that like it was the the shocking revelation of like, oh, now it's airborne. It's not just something that it is growing or that you have to get bitten by. It's airborne, and so containment is I think priority besides the conflict brewing in Seattle. And so I liked how that was interpreted and adapted for the show as of now.
Yeah. Terrell, what was your interpretation of spores and how they handle spores in this episode?
I wish we had more spores. Just in general, prior to this episode, season 1 this season. I know they got like talking points for this, but yeah, wish we had more spores. I missed them dearly. So they were used in a very atmospheric way here, solidly. Most of the technical details of the show are pretty excellent. I'm gonna make a safe assumption that the spores are CGI. At least I think so. But it looks pretty fantastic, when it's happening. In the air between Nora and Ellie with the red lighting, as it were. It's a great like new addition for like the TV show fans, but for the video game fans, like man, I wish we had so much more of it because it's just visually striking and unusual, So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my interpretation of it is that this is the introduction of them. I think that they're gonna go and use this as a bridge point transitioning to season 3. And I think when you're going to be interfacing with other characters, of course it sucks to have infected and you got hordes of infected, but even when you think you're safe, now you know for a fact you're not. And I think that is a brilliant strategy for a live action TV show, because then you're like, what if you're, running as fast as you can and you go into this cave to protect yourself and crap, you don't have an oxygen mask and you just exposed yourself. Can you hold your breath long enough? Like there's so many different scenarios that they can use as a tool, much like they did in the game. So,
yeah.
I think that this is a good starting point. It's just going to be very interesting, and I think that the visual aesthetic of how they handled it was amazing. Not only was it the boy that they were talking of that showed the spores coming out of his mouth, but it's kind of like this was only, I think it was only less than 48 hours, and it was this much of a spread. That is terrifying to me, because what that shows me is that the set designs are going to go nuts by the end of next season, and it's going to lead into some very interesting things that we know from the game as well.
Do you think that the spores are? It's really hard without being able to press rewind. But regardless, do you think that the spores are practical, or do you think it's CGI? I would assume CGI just for like the sake of time.
I think that it's got to be CGI, because even with like the first season when they kind of use like the infected to use how they did this, there's levels of CGI sprinkled with it, and for you to kind of effectively show something airborne like in the way as perfect as they did, I think they could maybe use certain powder and dust to make certain things. They could use practical stuff, but I think when you're seeing it completely cover the area, because it was like every few seconds he was just letting it out of his mouth, and the other person was as well. So it's kind of like it's a continuous incubator. So
but like when Nora and the Ellie are in front of each other, the way that you kind of see the spores drifting by, I guess in that sense you would say that's still like the effect. Do you think it's based on something practical? You think they have like some kind of snow machine going or something?
I think that if Craig could, he would. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know. I'd have to look at behind the scenes to see what they did.
Maybe it's a mix of both.
Fair.
I think if they could, they're gonna do a mix of both for sure.
I think the Leon Park kid that it's in the shot from the trailer and it's in the episode of the puff of spores pulling out. They probably built that as something just to throw out and just capture that, and you mix it up with CG stuff, and that's the good balance of blending of like, all right, we can't put this whole room because we don't want to get our stars sick or whatnot, but we'll do it in a way where one element is realistic and an element is CG, and yet we can sell the atmosphere in both occasions.
Yeah,
it's just interesting. I had so many complaints, but ironically, I did not have any complaints about the spores, which is kind of significant.
Yeah, one thing that I'll say that they did really well in the beginning of the episode, again, is introducing the spores by exposition, but good acting. Like the lady that was a soldier and her son was trapped down there, she sold that scene very well. Very little screen time. I hope they actually have her come back up again, but by that time, God knows what's going to happen. But going to something that I did think that they did a really good job on as well is Dina and Ellie. So going from the last episode, we knew that Ellie had a little bit of trepidation whether or not she wanted to continue down that road. But she literally had like a full conversation about it. She's like, no, like you shouldn't be here. Like, what am I thinking? She said that to herself. And I don't even know if I remember that from the game. Like she literally was like, you do not have to go down this route. And then this is the same time Dina expressed her first kill and what that actually meant. And that was they, in my opinion, they've set Dina up to be a very strong character in the show. not to say Dina was not strong in the game, but she's done very well, almost masterfully, in my opinion, in the show, because it adds more weight to the reality that with every partnership or relationship, they're as good as the other person that's holding them up. And they set her in a very good space that when Joel left, we still felt very comfortable that Dina was going to have her back no matter what. And like a whole G, she basically told the story of what happened to her family and what she had to do. And if given the circumstance all over again, if somebody that she knew did it and she didn't do anything about it, like, nah. Like, but she said it's your decision. Either way, we're going in this, baby and all. But what did you guys think about Dina and Ellie in this? Because the first part of it was really Dina and Ellie, and then it transitioned to adding Jexy in the mix, adding more danger in the mix, and then going back to the grassroots of ultimately from the moment that Joel died, and you guys had a different perspective. You can. The moment that Joel died, Ellie was back alone. That's kind of how I've looked at it. I mean, I think that there are people there, but it's kind of like when you lose someone, it's just very different. Even though you got a support system, it's very different. But what did you guys think about Dina and Ellie in this episode?
Isabella's a star. Like, she has been carrying the torch that Shannon Woodward lit and ran with it in the show. I love the yin and yang they have for each other, and the fact that now, even with Ellie, seeing how much more conflict there is with her in the show, that like there's that almost accountability of like, I just lost Joel. I don't want to roll the dice now on Dina, especially because I presume that she's had a crush on her since the moment she laid eyes on her for the first time. So it's like Joel's the most important thing in her life, but the second best thing is Dina, I think, right now, and like she's alive, and again, it's that juxtaposition of like vengeance, retribution, and yet the preservation of life. And I love that they gave Dina some edge. I love that they were just like, no, 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 no. Even this person that you've come to love in these past few episodes, even they have a dark past. And I just love how their friendship and relationship has just been building up in an organic way, and how you see the teases they have for each other, and then they finally express their affection for one another, and then now beyond that, how much they're willing to back each other up. And I appreciate that from character perspective, fan of the characters, and just writing perspective. Just like, in an evolving state, baby or no baby, outnumbered or having the high ground, that they're all the way together. And again, it was a beautiful moment just to have Elliot for a second really contemplate her options, and Dina raising the stakes. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, they really did. And I think that it made Bella's Ellie more mature for actually thinking in that route. Because there are certain hurdles that, from a visual aesthetic, some people just look at Bella, as not a great fit visually. Like, that she doesn't look like she's grown at all. It doesn't this. But they've done subtle things that Bella's been able to capitalize on. And it's not just darkness, it's transitional decisions based on circumstance. And I think that her realizing, crap, it's not just Dina, like, it's the baby. It's also responsibility, because Jesse's going to have it over her head. Tommy would have that over her head. And it's just interesting when, Jesse does show back up. You guys are going to have to help me. The situation with them, that's what I was going to ask Terrell about, when they got cornered.
Oh, man.
That was a lot. Because they set it up perfectly. Was it the first episode for the Night Stalker or the Stalker?
The Stalker, yeah.
And then when they went into the room, and Ellie was like, "All right, I know how to deal with this. We're prepared this time." And like, dude was like, "Okay, I got you back." Then all of a sudden they see 2, then they see 3, and then they look behind them, and they're everywhere. Like, the practical and the setup for that was near perfect. I was like, y'all need to run. Like now. Like there's nowhere you can go. Like this is bad. And it got to the point that they ran enough to get away, but not because Dina had to barricade herself into a fence. And Ellie had already put herself in harm's way to try to protect her. And it was just like they're about to legit bite it. Regardless if Ellie can get bit or not, she can get ripped to shreds. It doesn't matter. And so I don't know. It was like a really perilous situation. I was curious y'all's perspective how they handled that scenario in this episode.
It's
I
close to gameplay.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Gerald. Go ahead.
No, I did want to say from before, like I really quick Dina and Ellie in this episode. I guess Bella and Isabella, right? Oh wow, I never noticed that with their names before. Anyway, here's my thing. I'm not sure if their romantic chemistry is working to me. I do think they're like adorable with each other, but for me, they're more. Their vibe seems more like homies than like lovers. I'm not sure if I buy them as lovers yet. I definitely buy them as like two people who care for each other and are like good friends. The romantic stuff, I don't know if I'm not sure how. I'd have to think about how to execute it better narratively. But yeah, I'm not sure if I completely buy their chemistry romantically, I guess. Personally. But when they do get cornered, and their romance is like it's good, but it's flawed. But when they get cornered, though, that was actually insane. I won't lie. It was kind of white knuckling a bit. It got bad.
Yeah, it was gameplay, man. Like gameplay brought to life. Like it was. Again, we said it when they went to the theater. How scary, frightening it is. How accurate it is to the game. The level of details, and yeah, it was again just a simple thing of seeing two actors just be hide behind some thing, and then look up to the flashlight and you see one, wait, two, and again I just loved how Dean at the beginning was like counting one, it wasn't in the subway, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 infected, and it turned out to be way more than this 5. So I love that no matter how much time they think they prepped, no matter how many bullets they think they have, or how many guns or knives, they're like, no, you're out of Kansas. This is not you're out of your safety net. Expect the unexpected, and Mother Nature's not holding back. So I appreciate that as a gamer and as someone who appreciates the gameplay of part 2. It was like whew, tense.
Yeah, they've built up a lot of tension in just this episode alone. Because yes, at the end of the day, Jesse came to save them, and they made it out barely. And it was kind of like, where the heck did he come from? And I love the fact that Ellie asked the question as us as the viewer, like, where'd you come from? How'd you track me? How'd you get here? And he answered all those while on the run. Because normal shows, it's like, plot. That's why he's there. But they actually showed like, okay, they've been scouting out for a while. Him and Tommy were trying to work together and pivot, but they had to separate to try to get to them as quick as they could because they were worried they're going to die. And I think that one of the things we had talked about last episode, it was a huge difference. There's a stark difference in Tommy's reaction to Joel's death. And it's like, even with the council thing, some people had an issue with it, but it's like, no, he's out there. He is here for Joel's daughter, ultimately. But as far as Jesse coming and saving the day, and then the uses of Jesse in this episode, and then the transition of him trying to get them out, but them ending up in the woods together to have the scars be there. How did y'all feel about the back to back? Because it felt like a game, but it wasn't cringy. I think it was paced really well. And if you're a non-gamer, you're completely ambushed by what the hell's going on. I can't even imagine how Jorge was dealing with that episode.
Yeah, and I love that even Jesse at the time, he gets them out or helps them get out. And Ellie's asking all these questions. He's like, so does it look like I want to talk to you? And just like, let's get out of here. I don't want to talk to you right now. And I love this already. Like, again, he is a leader of Jackson, but he's loyal to his friends. And this is the price. God damn it, I have to help my friends out of their trouble and not. And like, young Mazino, man, just bringing the essence from the game. And yeah, that was again another. Stalkers is another thing, and then you get to Seraphites or the Wolf. That's a whole other thing. And again, even how they handle the bushes, the whistling, how they at first episode 2 ago, Ellie and Dina were like sympathetic to these people. They were massacred and whatnot, and then they get front row seats, courtside seats. They're like, oh, you want to know how the Seraphites, what they do for passing time? And they see the mutilating sequence of somebody's guts. And I love how the lighting worked and how again almost audio right out of the game of like, may she serve or whatever they say, may she guides us, and they all like bow, may she guides us after. And again they time it right, they spread out, they light up the whole place, they whistle, nothing responds, okay, they gather around and keep looking, and I love that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I had forgot about my head goes, okay, they saw the scars, they ran, but no, they were terrified because of what the scars did. Cornered somebody and disemboweled him from sternum down.
And that's right.
And we get to see how, we saw a lot of people hanging up, but we didn't understand what that actually meant. And like, I'm not gonna say they sacrificed this man, but I don't know what he did, but I don't think he deserved. And he was pleading for his life, and they just witnessed that, and they were like, "Oh hell no!" And matter of fact, what was so dope about it, it was messed up about it, was they got cornered again because Dina got shot with a freaking arrow, and they had to make their way out of there because they were compromised. Like they had left one warfare to go to a brand new one. And I think that the way they handled that, bro, was just dope. It was dark, but it was really freaking dope. And one of the things that everybody had been saying from the first season is like, give me more action, give me more action. I don't think they were ready. We said this last season. Everybody was like, oh yeah, no, I want more, I want more. Like, dude, just wait. And y'all getting it now. But how do y'all feel about the transition from the stalkers to the military? Well, sorry, technically it's the stalkers, then it's the scars, and then it goes back to the military. But how do y'all feel about the transition from the scars? I'm sorry, to the stalkers to the scars and this stuff?
You're talking about like when they were in the fucking woods and they got surrounded by the fucking scars. That was actually like one of those scenes that probably solidifies the show or the episode not being bad, because even like as someone who knows for the most part what happens next, there's like a level of intensity of like they just ran into like the wrongest niggas ever. Most coordinated woodland dwelling people ever. You know what I mean? Like, my God in heaven. If I was Ellie or Dana, I'd be pissed scared. Okay? I'd be terrified. Lord Jesus. I can't believe that they kept moving after that little beat. Like, I would have been like, listen, bitch, let's just squat for like 40 minutes and then we'll move. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Like, it's that serious. So they are not people to play with.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about it though. Mentally and emotionally, they just left a horde of stalkers, and then
okay, but clearly these people are intelligent. Clearly these niggas are intelligent. Clearly they're like surrounded, or they're like, outnumbered in a way where, like, even if it was just 4 others, like, hold on, like they might have like a skill set. What I mean?
So this is my personal perspective, and again, I have hunted before. The moment that Dina got hit and she did everything she could to keep her mouth closed, she was compromised. Just even if they did squat, if they walked over them or walked onto her, she was done. They were all done. Like realistically, they had to get her out because it'd been one thing if they were able-bodied and they could kind of like sink low or whatnot. Like she was in pain. Like she had a whole arrow sticking out of her. And if they came even close, and they didn't even know where they were coming from, they could have been on the grounds too. And so my perspective is Jesse made the right call, slowly getting her out and then them splitting up. I thought that was the only option they had because if not, she would have been the thing that would have got them killed. It's not her fault. It's just what it would have been. Even if Ellie would have gotten shot too, it'd have been the same situation.
But when they first realized that they were surrounded, they paused for like just a moment, right? and then they moved on, right? And then something happened to where essentially the same thing happened, except this time shit got real because she got shot with the arrow in the leg. But I'm just saying that initial pause, I would have been like, listen, bitch, we're not moving for like 55 minutes, okay? You need to lay down in the fucking tall grass, okay, and hold your breath. Because there's some niggas out there that are like, we don't know who they are, so let's just take a second, okay? That's what I'm saying. When they moved on from that first initial beat, I was like, I don't know if I would have done that, to be honest.
Yeah, and again, that's why I said that to me that's realistic. Because people realistically go into shock. They don't think, right? Like you're kind of like freak. Like you're already paranoid on edge. You already know you sure as hell shouldn't be out there. The freaking so bad is the military didn't go into there. Didn't say that, nah, we ain't going up in there. So, but I thought that the way they handled the scars in that scenario was perfect. They were just equally as menacing as the military group and as the stalkers. So it was kind of like coming from the stalkers to the freaking scars in the gosh darn woods, and then them having to break off because Dina got shot. Was crazy. I got another person here. Jorge, what's up, man?
What is going on, everybody?
So I had already did like a full recap for everybody, but we just gone from when they were cornered by the stalkers in the warehouse to Jesse getting them out barely.
Yep.
To the military chasing them to the woods, then them getting to the woods and they finding somebody getting disemboweled. Yeah. And then Dina getting shot. And then they're on the run yet again. But from Jarrell's perspective, he would have been like, as soon as I saw him, I would just got him laid down and just not moved for 55 minutes.
Bro, dead ass. As soon as I would notice that we were surrounded, I was trying to tell them, like, listen, bitch, get on the ground for 55 minutes and don't breathe. Okay, we're not going anywhere. Okay?
Don't breathe.
Yeah. Get comfortable, okay? They only have so many weapons, so much ammo, okay? What the fuck? There's just like woodland dwelling niggas? Yeah, absolutely not. No. No.
I was saying that realistically, people are stupid. People react based off of their emotions, and somebody is compromised. I felt like Dina did well to not even scream. But my perspective was that they had to kind of move at that point because if they got found on the ground, they wouldn't have been able to run. There wouldn't have been anything they could do.
I mean, you get found on the run as well. Shit.
No. What's your perspective, Jorge?
No, I mean,
Jorge's like, I'd be dead out there.
Yeah, I'd be doing one of these, like, go on my own terms. No, I don't think that that laying down and playing, being invisible, is the right answer. But I do agree with you. I think when in shows like this, you kind of have to think like none of us would. We don't know how we would react, like if we run into especially with everything that they've gone through already, in the sense of like what they've seen and all that. There's no way I'm staying still. Like I'm jetting out of there as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, so what it ended up doing from that point is Jesse got Dina and went a different direction, and Ellie went to try to draw them away, and she kind of made her way through, and she made her way back to the compound. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When Ellie made her way back to the compound, she saw somebody that she recognized, and lo and behold, that was Nora. And because she found Nora, Ellie's emotional trajectory changes quite a bit as well. Now, this is very reminiscent of the game. It's just the circumstances of how they execute is a little different, but it still hit the same exact way. Even though I think that the way they handled Jesse in this was a lot more smoother and a lot more intense in a way. But the moment that Ellie just popped out of the darkness like the Dark Knight and was like, "Don't move. Where's Abby at?" And she's like, "Who the heck are you? You don't remember me? Oh, I'm gonna show you. See this gun?" And from that point, Nora knows like how bad it is. Now, I wanted y'all's perspective when Nora starts to tell Ellie what he did. And again, like I was kind of like, I wonder how they're gonna play this in the show, because we know, right, how she was told, but I think the way they executed in this was cold. Like you saw it on Nora's face. Like, do you know what he did? Do you know the lives that he ended that day? Like, you just cool with this, Spider-Man? But I was curious y'all perspective on how they handled like their interaction. As cold as Nora was in the way that she said something, I felt like Ellie was equally as cold in her delivery of, Nora's rebuttal. Like,
so how did they do it in the game? Just out of curiosity, for those few of us who have not played the game.
Almost the exact same way. Like, again, I mean, in the game, you have to go through gameplay, make your way around into the building of the hospital. But you start hearing that they're moving stuff around. That a little bit of key puzzles of where Wolf is going against the Seraphites, and you finally encounter Nora, and it's almost the exact same dialogue. Although in the show, Nora admits that what they did was effed up, but she doubles down and be like, "Yeah, that bitch got what he deserved."
mm-hmm.
And Ellie reacts the same way. Nora throws her almost the same thing and whatnot. And it's just a race and gameplay of trying to chase her down and either kill her or torture her or make her talk or whatever may have you. But yeah, it's fascinating how the show is giving them more opportunities to confess for their sins, if you will, while still being like, yeah, I would do it again and again and again. And I love how they're giving non-gamers a piece of the puzzle, and you still don't know what the overall picture is going to be forming by saying, "Oh yeah, I know what he did, and I don't care." You kill him that way, like no, that's not acceptable. So.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, it felt like a little bit of breathing room to really get understanding that Ellie knows what Joel did, but she doesn't care. Yeah. And it's like, not to say that she's not empathetic, but at this point, her emotions are turned off, right? Because what made it so interesting with Nora, like Nora's like, "You killed us, you freaking killed us. We're exposed to these spores. Like, we're done."
Yeah.
And Ellie just kind of like, that whole interaction, like Ellie was like, "Does that look like I'm sick? Does it look like I have a problem?" And the realization in Nora's head is like, "You're the freaking girl.
Yeah.
You're the reason why all this is even going on. Like, you're the most important person. Like, you're the immune." And that's when it engaged in the conversation. Like, do you know what he did? Do you know the lives that he's ended? Not just lives in the hospital, but anyone. Because Abby's dad was the only one that could have possibly found a cure.
Yeah.
So by killing him, you killed everyone else as well. And
Yeah, I do think I think with the so I think in the game, like Ellie is a more darker person, and there's less of a ramp up. In the show, it seemed like there was a bit of a pause or a ramping up or a slower burn to beating Nora to death. It felt like in the game after they spoke, very quickly we come upon Ellie beating Nora. And it seems like you guys are speaking to that point. And I'm not sure how I feel about it because again, it just comes across more sinister and hellish in the game. To be blunt with you, it's effective in the show, but there weirdly is a difference, even though these are similarly followed events. But it does feel a little more evil in the game. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know, man.
So in the the only thing I was just gonna say, when I got to this part in the game, and I guess this is for Jorge to hear as well, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, they're gonna give me a choice of whether or not to beat her to death or get more information, to watch her pass and die alone, or to beat her to death. And I was kind of like, I was waiting for the choice with my controller. And the only choice that they gave me was to beat this girl to death. And that was the first time, the second time that I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to beat this girl to death because I know what this will do to Ellie. Like, she's doing it out of this whole different sense of like revenge without even hearing it out, because technically the girl was going to die anyway, but she wanted to just make her suffer. This wasn't about like the girl was going to die anyway. This was just because she felt like it. And like me playing the game, I was like, I didn't like, that was when I realized this story was taking me on a journey. This wasn't about choice. This wasn't about entertainment. This was about a narrative choice. And so like within the show, I'm glad it wasn't the same because they let it have a little bit of breathing room. Like I was able to process what was going on, because in like Darrell said, it's really quick in the game. In this, like Ellie had time to process what this girl is saying. Like, dang, that's messed up. Like I'm like, he was wrong for that, but she still went down the same exact path, and it hurt me a little bit more, to be honest.
Well, the strange part about it is that in the game, and this is why I think maybe in the show they're making more sinister when she has these quiet moments to herself, thinking about violence and the use of it. In the game, it's a cutscene while still gameplay, and Ellie goes down much like again in the shot of the episode with the rod or whatever. She tells Nora, "Tell me where Abby is, and I'll make this quick instead of slow and suffering." And Nora just goes, "No, no, no." In the show, she just keeps asking, "Where's Abby? Where's Abby? Where's Abby?" She doesn't offer,
Any
a quick
type of
death.
reprieve, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, like, and in the game she does, which I found that fascinating. Of like, again, I've been mentioning, but it goes back to that moment in season 1 when Ellie cuts the infected head off. She's like, "Ooh, what is that?" And with this one, it's just like, it's the most way Ellie can like throw a mirror at Nora and be like, "Remember what you did? You just stood there and watched someone get a normal man get tortured.
Yeah,
Karma comes knocking."
Yeah, I don't know. I was curious Jorge's perspective on it, because again, he's not a person that played the game. How did you think that was all going to play out? What did you think was going to happen?
So when she originally, like, I guess once they entered kind of the basement area where it was all there, and you kind of saw Nora start kind of realizing like, crap, like what have you done? Like, we're all sick now. Like, I'm getting sick. And you almost see Ellie in a weird way. I don't want to say take joy, but almost almost like a checkmate type of move where it's like we're not getting sick, like you are. Like I'm a-okay. And I think for me mentally, there's nothing that Ellie won't do to avenge Joel's death. Like it doesn't matter what she has to do or who she has to cross. I think in her mind, everything in a weird way is justified because she's doing it for Joel at the end of the day. What I found interesting was when, after, she kind of, for better lack of terms, like gets jacked up with the pole and all that. When, and this may be a question that you guys can't answer. You know how like when she was down there were a couple people that were kind of like, for better or worse, like suction cup to the wall with like the infection on them type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
If the infection gets on Nora, how smart is the infection? And what I mean by that is, will the infection be able, because you know how once like the root system, like it can tell where people are at and all that, will they be able to tell that, I guess, for that Ellie is kind of the chosen one per se? Like will they have that knowledge that I guess that Nora just got in a sense? Like, is that something that,
like the literal like the cordyceps, basically, like the fungi?
kind of, yeah, like if once it kind of gets in, because in a weird way, like it, when she's against the wall and if it sucks her into it, does that gain the knowledge of it in a weird way? Like, do they understand what Nora knows, or does it just once it takes over, is it just
Okay, so first off, that's just insane. All right, I've never thought about that. So that's just insane. That's interesting. Holy fuck! How insane would that be if like the literal fucking the fungi organisms, the cordyceps, it's like looking for her or like it's aware of her from her like immunity standpoint?
It is smart. It is smart. Remember what happened to Tess?
Because I guess I'm trying to understand if
what I'll say is that we don't know how Neil is going to handle their interpretation of how smart that this infection is going to go. Because even down to how Jackson was kind of handled, like even down to like the season 1, there are certain luxuries that they have of time that what you're saying may be very true. But the way that I've looked at it at this point, unless something changes, is like, say Ellie was kind of like on one of the roots and stepped on it.
Yeah.
I think that would be an immediate like trigger. But to your point, Ellie was directly in front of a guy with his mouth open, like illuminating spores. I mean, I think it'd be really interesting. And not just that, it was like within a matter of 48 hours that much spreaded on him because he was only down there for a couple, like maybe a day. But as far as I know, I don't think that's possible. But it would be very fascinating if it did go down that route.
Well, yeah, because I'm just trying to think like in the scene where the town gets jacked up. Realistically, they chopped at the root system, and the root system kind of was like, "Oh, they're all right here," and everyone knew, the infected all knew to go there.
They did.
So in my head, it's like if the infected is taking over people, I guess in a weird, like, what controls the infection itself? Like, what other than like just trying to feed its its hunger, I guess. But it's like, does it get smarter, I guess, in a weird way? Because I know we've seen a lot of new I was about to call them aliens.
Variants.
Yeah, like different types. Like you have like that giant bulldozer type dude. You have the normal guys. You have that creeper that runs like 100 miles an
Stalker.
hour. Yeah, the
Yeah.
stalker. So it's like I'm just trying to understand. They had to have evolved some shape, way, or form, and it's almost like what stops their intelligence, I guess, in a weird way. Like where does it cap off?
Yeah. I think we, as gamers, there's only but so much information that we actually have. But I'll say that because even the way they implemented spores in this episode much later than we did in the games, that's a whole nother thing. Like, because if you're in an area where spores are, you're done. If you don't have a gas mask on, like you're dead.
Yeah, in the
So-
game, it took Joel and Ellie to go through an area of spores with Joel wearing a mask to actually believe that Ellie was immune. When he
Yep.
saw that, he's like, "Holy shit, you are immune."
Yeah.
She's like, "I told you." And so, like, yeah, the cordyceps, the fungus, the infected, they have an ecosystem. They do have different levels of evolution.
Yep.
Okay.
But to tap it all off, as Ellie proceeds to just beat this girl to death after she's already confessed, like, look what this man has done, and she says she didn't care. As she's beating Nora, they flash back, and the first person you see is Pedro Pascal's Joel, and an earlier moment, a happier moment, and then they just end the freaking episode. And I don't think I've seen a cliffhanger end on a happy note and at the same time a hurtful note. Like that hurt to see that man again, but at the same time I was like, man, it's so good to see him again.
Hey Sam, question for you: the cliffhanger that you're talking about? Do you think? I don't think I've ever thought about it this way because Joel, he loves Ellie like a daughter. He did not. He wasn't involved, but he did not give birth to Ellie. But did he give birth to this murderous? Sometimes, at least in the game, you almost wonder how close to evil she got. Did he give birth to that? So
I'll answer that question with what Captain O'Hara said last episode. No. I think even the way that Jorge kind of described it from his perspective, like she had things in her before she intercepted with Joel. Yeah. Even like when she was going, I think that Ronan brought it up when she was just like interfacing with one of the heads of one of the infected, like that's like homicidal behaviors. Like those are like violent tendencies that some people have inherently. They're able to adapt through it or change their mood swings, or maybe they keep it under control. But Ellie had things in her that I think that Joel maybe probably noticed. And at the same time, I think he nurtured her at the same time. But she unfortunately had things in her. And I don't think anybody truly understands the levels of what is going on with Ellie, except for Ellie. That's my personal perspective, because there's too many indications in this that she had this in her that she's been trying to hold docile. Even I think Ronan brought it up last episode when she had to kill God, what's his name? Daniel? David,
yeah.
That whole, I mean, yes, you can call it a fight or flight situation, but that whole situation, like, it takes a specific type of person to get through something like that.
It's a watershed moment,
and that didn't have anything to do with Joel. So that's my perspective.
Go back and watch our reaction. I literally was like cheering, and then within an instant, I was like, "Oh no!" I kept saying, "Joel, please get her out of there! Like stop it!" Because she's burning her soul away like that. Like kept going after it. As justified as she was, that was destroying her soul. And one can make the argument that maybe Joel did his best to help her hone in on that natural instinct and look at it through a different angle within those 5 years in Jackson, because he probably knew that like I think Gail said, they walked in parallel ways, that like they complement each other, that they were symbiotic, and so maybe
Do
he
you
did his
feel
best.
Do you feel the same way? Do you feel the same way about video game Ellie?
Video game Ellie. You see, that's the thing about the beauty about that game is that game was so much at moments way more subtle they left it to us of like whether she was more like this on her own or was this just what she got from Joel. And I think when you look back at it, him saying, you know what, I'll teach you how to play guitar. I think that was one way of trying to be like, all right, let's think about less about killing and let's think about art more. Let's think about singing songs and play guitar than knowing how to use a gun. I think
almost channeling her anger and
her passion
in a more positive
Yes.
route.
Yes, I think.
But then at the same time, one would say
it's so hard for me because I mean, don't we all have a darkness? But most people don't usually fucking do something crazy. But if they were pressed, if they were put in a certain situation,
it's like the fight or flight type of thing.
We could have a deeper discussion on this. I do know that there are some people in our population that they feel levels of rage and things inside that no one really knows, and it's just left dormant. And the fight or flight it works as a reactant more so than an enabler. Like it's not as though like, oh well, this moment made me go. Like some people have certain things in them inherently in their head that they know for a fact what they would do, but they're just not put in that kind of situation. Thank God to do it. So yeah, we can go into that deeper later. But this to me was a phenomenal episode. There's so much in this.
Yeah.
I mean, it never stopped. I really don't have any negatives about it, to be quite honest with you, because even in the beginning, there were certain layers to Dina and Ellie that they needed to have those foundations there. And now you have Tommy that's out there. I don't know how he's going to react to this whole situation.
Yeah.
Jesse's already feeling his certain way against Ellie. Not against her, but because of her more so than anything. But Ellie, for all intents and purposes, is not Ellie anymore, or if she ever was, whatever your interpretation of what Ellie is. But I thought this was a 10 out of 10 episode. This is one of the better episodes for me. But yeah, what is your closing thoughts on this episode?
Shoot, I'll go. There you go.
No, yeah. I was trying to think of the right words. Just the intensity just riled up, and the stakes keep getting higher. And I just love that nothing's been let on. That like from the settling in space, a moment of like relaxation, just like calmness for Joel's morning, and then wrapping it up of like day one of Seattle, and now we're getting deeper into realizing, of what Seattle offers to Ellie and Dina, and now Jesse and Tommy. So yeah. I dug this episode a lot.
Yeah. Jarrell, what was your closing thoughts on the episode?
I definitely thought it was good. There's certain things that give me reservation, but I definitely thought it was at least good. And Isabella as Dina is definitely not only my favorite part, but like if it wasn't for her performance, my flaws would like quadruple.
And last but not least, Jorge, closing thoughts episode.
Yeah, I think this was one of the better episodes for sure. I don't know if I would rank this one as one of my favorite episodes of the season. I think it was a good one. I'm very intrigued in how Ellie's story is going to unfold in this whole mess, because in a weird way I feel, which sounds weird, Abby, as soon as she killed Joel, it was like she was good and done with. Like she kind of put it to the side, you know. And I think Ellie is the complete opposite of that. And Ellie, she's one of those, like, you're either with me or against me, and if you're not with me, like, you're dead. So I think it'll be interesting kind of seeing, in a weird way, the villain story of Ellie coming out. And I kind of wonder if they will show. I wonder if the show in these few episodes that we have left, I wonder if they'll kind of turn the landscape around where you kind of, I don't want to say feel justified for what Abby did, but understand it more, and kind of, I don't want to say be okay with it, but if you can justify her actions at the end of the day. Because I think with Ellie, it's more blind raged, where she really doesn't fully understand what she's doing or what she's capable of, I guess, in a weird way. And I think Abby had a very direct mind of, I'm trying to find Joel. I'm going to find Joel and I'm going to kill him. And I think Ellie is the complete opposite, in the sense of, like, yes, I'm going to find Joel, but I'm going to kill everyone in my way that's not getting me closer to, like, Joel's killer. So it'll be interesting, but I'm also more curious of how everyone's going to react to knowing Ellie's kind of secret that she's had this whole time. Like how that's going to spin the narrative around, because Ellie may end up being a soldier of one, like a lone wolf at this point. So I'm excited to see where this story goes, but at the same time, I think there's only 2 episodes left, 2 or 3?
Two
episodes left. Yeah, so it's like, how much can you truly pack in 2 hours? Let's say.
Right. That's my issues.
Yeah,
that's
like,
my issues.
Even right now with Jesse's the one who saved him. Like, we have no idea what's going on with Tommy. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, there's just so much happening, and then you have the city in the background that they're rebuilding and all this, and Tommy and Jesse left without anyone knowing. So now you have 4 people that are missing, that are, one can say 3 out of the 4 are actual pillars of the community.
Yep, corners for sure.
So it's one of those things where it's like, how there's just a lot of story, and I know there's like a season 3 coming up, but it's like, how are you gonna wrap these arcs up, and then still, even if the next season is 7 episodes, like, you have 7 hours to close so much story.
Thank you. Okay, this man just articulated, like, probably, like, at least like 85% of my problems with season 2, for sure.
We don't have the time to go into this, but if you want to go back 2 episodes, I broke down all of that, and I think I broke it down for Jorge and for Eden, in the sense that the second game is comprised of 2 different seasons, and it may end up being more than that, but there is going to be a point in this season where it's going to cut off, and it was not designed to cut off like that, because that's not how the game was designed. That's the simplest way I can put it.
So, but actually, with that, before you jump, because you guys have a better idea of where, theoretically, you guys have a better example of where it could cut off.
Where it's going to pause.
Yeah.
I'll put it like that.
For someone like me who's never seen this, like, never played the game, the only thing that I can justify it cutting off at would be Ellie having to pick between saving Dina or Tommy, and then it cutting off, and then we have to wait till season 3 comes out. But
Damn, Jorge.
And on that note, we're gonna go.
There you go.
We'll talk to y'all later. We'll see y'all on episode 6. Peace, people.
Falling out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind. Oh Lord.